Hello everyone, welcome to my second devlog, and I'm here today to talk about the progress I've made with my game The Talisman. So in the last video I did mention that I wanted to include crouching and low attacks, that's attacks that strike low into the game, and I did that. So here's the result. So I can crouch now, and I can also crouch block, so blocking while crouching. But then another thing is, when you're crouch blocking you can't move, because if you move you stop crouch blocking, and then you can only crouch block when you're stationary. Unlike when you're standing, you can crouch block. Sorry, when you're standing you can block and you can move around while blocking as you're standing. It's not the case when you're crouching. So I find that to be interesting. It seems kind of lazy, but I do think it would be an interesting mechanic to say, oh, okay, you can crouch and block, but you can't move while you're crouch blocking. It makes crouch blocking, I feel like that would prevent any sort of like gameplay strategy where people just crouch block all the time and they don't have to move or anything, and they can protect themselves from most attacks. There is a slight bug though, where like ideally you should be able to block while crouching and standing seamlessly, but like now, as I crouch while I'm blocking, it goes to a crouch block, but when I stand up, it doesn't. So I have to move a bit to return it back to a standing block, which is a slight bug on in the mechanics that I'm working on. But hopefully I could figure out what could cause that, because it would be good if you could transition while blocking between the two stances. Yeah, so there it is. And also, while you're crouching you can perform attacks. Like this attack, you can't perform it in any other way except if you're crouching. And then also there are attacks that you can perform that leave you in the crouching state. So you remember the dashing slash attack I showed in the first video. Now if I perform the attack, it leaves me in crouching state. And I figured that would make the most sense, because when you perform the dashing slash at the end of the attack, he kind of like kneels. So kneeling is kind of like a crouching state, so it would make sense if you transition from that kneeling to actual crouching, because he's already crouching in the first place. Like if I show you now, he's kneeling and then he transitions to crouch. Now of course not all I classify, and that was because I classified the dashing slash attack, the dashing slash attack as a low striking attack. That's an attack that strikes low, and it kind of makes sense because as you see at the end of the attack animation, he strikes downwards, so that kind of classifies it as a low attack. But of course not all low attacks will transition you into a crouching state every time, and I will do some tweaks to the code to ensure that there is a difference between a low attack and an attack that transitions you into crouch. But as of now there isn't a difference. As soon as you do a low attack, it transitions you to crouch, kind of like the first attack. And yeah, that's the new feature I added. And aside from that, there are some tweaks I made to the. I made some optimizations. So like the input buffering. So now, in the beginning, in the first video, chaining attacks was difficult because you had to get the timing right and everything. And I don't want my game to be super difficult, so now you don't have to chain attacks as hard as before. Not like for now, like as of right now, if I were to press the attack button 3 times, he's going to attack 3 times regardless of the pace at which I press the attack button. So if I press it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, it's going to perform 3 attack animations, and it's going to be seamless. I want the inputs to be as seamless as possible so they can feel the responsiveness, and then they can also, the gameplay will be a lot more effective that way. And also I added vertical attacks. That is so the regular attacks that I did are pressing R2, so it does a horizontal slash, and then there's also going to be a vertical slash, which is slashes that aren't horizontal, they're just like vertical or like straight for lunging attacks. And then I do that by pressing L2, and it shows 3 different attack combos from the regular attack combo. Now that attack combo I did it with R2, and then this attack combo I do it with L2. And aside from the input buffering, I also created a whole new system for recognizing and adding new moves to the move list. So it will definitely make the development process a lot faster and adding new moves a lot faster. Like now I added this test move. The move doesn't even have a name. I literally called it test move, and then what I did is I took an animation, I placed it in a move, and then I put some random inputs. The random inputs I put were forward, jump, and vertical attack. So if I press it, it does this animation, which it plays the animation that I added. So that took like about 10 seconds to add, and I feel like that would really speed up the development process. And yeah, that was pretty good. So I've spent a couple of months working on this game, and most of my focus has been on working on the character controller. In fact, all of my progress has been in the character controller itself. So and I think I'm at a point now where there isn't much I can improve on without getting external help, because of course I can't make my own animations. I get my own animations from Mixamo and other resources I find on the internet. That's where I get my animations, and so I can't make my own animations. I can't do my own artwork. So it's difficult to find new animations to add to the move list. I'm also trying to expand the move list as much as I can to give the character controller as varied of a varied playstyle, that a more like playstyle that the player can choose. But it will be hard with the difficulty of finding animations in the internet. So I guess one thing I could do is I could start at this point I could start hiring animators to make more attack animations, and then but then at that point I would be at the production phase. The production phase is where I start hiring freelance artists and freelance designers, freelance story writers to flesh out the artwork and the visual appeal of the game. And that's when I start actually investing money into this. I did spend a few bucks on some animations, but those animations that I bought weren't really the animations I'll use for the final game. They're just something that I bought so I could use to flesh out the character controller more, which I have done now. And so, but I don't think I'm ready to start hiring artists and designers yet. I think what I want to do now is I'm going to focus on the enemy combatants, the enemy AI, and work on making the enemy character controller work, and making the enemy character controller very smart and responsive. And from there, once I make the enemy controller, I will work on the combat interactions between the player and the enemy. And once I do that, I basically have the core gameplay loop working. And I have the core gameplay loop working. I can start going into the production phase and buying and purchasing services from game writers and animators and artists to make the actual game for me, while I focus on programming and game design, because that's only going to be what I'm focused on in this game, the programming and the game design. But yeah, the next devlog you might see from me, I would have fleshed out the enemy character controller, and the video is definitely going to be a lot more interesting than my last two, because my last two is just focused on a character playing animations and stuff like that. That might not be that interesting to you guys, but if I do have the enemy controller and the interactions and the combat situations, then you start to see that's when the main selling point of the game starts to show up. And I am pretty excited about it. I hope I can do it. And I appreciate you once again. I appreciate you guys for being here and watching this devlog, taking some time out of your day to watch the devlog. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. My channel is Hackpack Games, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next devlog. Thank you. Bye.